Good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to this Scottish Learning Festival session on the National e-learning offer. Can I ask everybody to make sure that their microphones are on mute and their cameras are switched off, please? That would be really helpful first. Firstly, thanks to you all for investing the time to join us today, and a welcome also to colleagues who are maybe watching the recording of the session, which I know will be available for the next couple of months. Quick introduction from me. My name's Andy Brown. I work as part of the Curriculum Innovation Team at Education Scotland. I'll act as a bit of a host for today's session. I'm joined by colleagues Jackie Yule, one of the digital deputy head teachers at eSchool, and Paul Downey, who's the coordinator of the West OS. For those not familiar, that stands for the West Online School, which Paul will tell you a lot more about during his input in the presentation. I'll let them introduce themselves at the start of their inputs, and you'll be hearing more from both of them really soon. I believe my colleague Stephen Bullock is lurking in the background too. I think he'll be around adding some links to some links during the session, and possibly picking up on any questions that are easy to answer. I'd also just like to take this opportunity to thank both Jackie and Paul, not only for supporting this presentation, but also the huge amount of work that they've done behind the scenes, a lot of which is hidden across the last 18 months or so. And of course, they're not the only people that have been involved in much of this work. So my thanks goes out to them too, of any colleagues at all who have been supporting this work. You'll see on the welcome slide there is a QR code which leads to a short, very short Mentimeter task. I think Jackie's placed a link in the chat as well. Feel free to suggest any thoughts you have to the question that's posed at this stage, and also feel free to come back to it as well throughout the presentation if you've got any sudden light bulb moments. And as always, a short evaluation will follow the session, and we'd be really grateful for any comments or any feedback given to allow us to adapt the session to meet the needs of those in attendance. So while the session today is primarily based around the national e-learning offer and information being shared about that, there'll be lots of opportunities for you to be an active part of the session by, for example, using the chat function to make comments, ask questions, share reflections and experiences. And I'd encourage you, firstly, I encourage you to do that, but secondly, I'd encourage you to like other people's comments as well. Just makes everybody feel as if they're part of the session, because obviously we can't be there face to face at the moment. If we can't answer any of the questions today, we'll certainly try and follow up on those after the event, sharing answers through, for example, social media channels or future engagement sessions. And I've tried to include QR codes throughout the opening slides, and that hopefully will allow you different ways to explore the links. I'll also share my contact details at the end of this introduction, so do please feel free to get in touch if you've got any specific questions or queries or points you want to raise, and that message also goes out to those people watching the recording. So just to very briefly run through the protocols for today's session, we'd ask, as I said, if you could ensure your microphone and camera, if possible, as well, is switched off. As I said, do make use of the chat pane. We'll try and monitor that and respond to things throughout wherever we can. We'll also post resources and links. Any technical issues, just use the chat pane or access the Speakeasy support function, which is in the portal. And of course, remember too, as I said, the session is recorded, so don't panic. If anything goes wrong, it'll be me that's panicking. If you're an avid user of Twitter, the hashtag SLF online would give the tweets a context, and that will allow others to follow and to navigate through those tweets. That, of course, is also another possibility, another avenue for questions if we didn't have time to get to them in the short session today. I'd also appeal to everyone on the call to share their learning and the information that you gather from the session today with colleagues in your own schools or settings, and also in different ones. We are acutely aware that a lot of our messaging and information goes out through social media, and of course not all practitioners out in the system are users, so we're trying our best to open up as many avenues as possible to get messages out there. We've used things like GTCS magazines, e-bulletins, but actually the best way to get that information out is through word of mouth. So please do share things that you hear today. There's a flyer summarising the offer and giving lots of information about the NELO, which was shared, I think, with local authorities in June or July. So it'd be really good to know if you've seen that before and if these messages are getting out into the hands of practitioners. I think, and then I'll just move on my slide. The QR code is at the top of that slide, and I think we'll put a link in the chat as well to that flyer. So just a little bit of background to set the scene. The National E-Learning Offer, which we affectionately know it as NELO, was set up in June 2020 by the National E-Learning Partnership, which consisted of Education Scotland, the Directors of Education in Scotland, commonly known as ADES, eSchool, West OS and the Scottish Government. And since then, NELO has most definitely really grown. And we've had involvement from colleagues in all regional improvement collaboratives in some capacity, and they are continuing to invest time in shaping the national e-learning offer moving forward. The ongoing work that we've done has really tried hard to take account of both positive and negative feedback. And of course, the original aim of NELO was to ensure better continuity in learning for those who were requiring to learn at home during school closures, or where there were challenges in terms of practitioners or learners self-isolating. The National E-Learning Offer, as you can see from the slide there, it's got 3 parts: live, recorded and supported. The live element is led by eSchool, and Jackie will talk you through the full range of offer available then in a minute or two. The recorded element is led by West OS, and I'll let Paul explore that in far more detail shortly. And then the final element is the supported one, which I'm about to give a little bit more detail on. I think it's important to state that the 3 parts of the National E-Learning Offer work in unison with each other, not competition. And hopefully from today's session, you'll see the link specifically between eSchool and West OS, which we think are working really positively, creating lots of different opportunities for future development in this area. So in terms of the supported element of the National E-Learning Offer, this was a response to practitioners asking us to coordinate resources. Education Scotland worked with curation groups who identified and collated the content. There's a huge number of resources and links contained within the NELO page. Lots of it links to, for example, BBC bite-sized content, scholar materials, things like that, all mapped to the curriculum. The page that I'm going to show you in a second on the next slide is held on the Education Scotland website, and it's far more user-friendly and searchable than maybe original iterations were. So please do go and explore. I think there's 24,000 odd resources covering a wide range of subjects and content ranging from the early years right up to advanced higher. So you'll see there, that's a screenshot taken of the National E-Learning Offer landing page. There's the QR code there available on the slide, and I can stick a link in the chat to that later on when I finish up. As I said, searchable and most definitely been upgraded. Some particular resources that I thought were worth highlighting today are within the sciences. The Education Scotland STEM team worked with key partners such as Edinburgh Napier University, Glasgow University, Strathclyde University, CERC, Technician Services, to film and produce approximately, I think it was 200 practical science videos. Senior phase chemistry, physics experiments have all been filmed, as I think of the majority of the biology experiments, and they've all been produced in partnership with the BBC. Content has been produced as well for the Broad General Education secondary science. Some of this content has been published already and some's in its final editing stages. And there's also content too for primary science, particularly looking at first and second level. That's been filmed and I think it's in the final editing process. All these links are contained within the platform. It can be viewed through West OS, BBC Bite Size, STEM Nation YouTube channel, and again I'll try and place some links in the chat for that later on. There is plans for further content being filmed in particular at the Aberdeen Science Centre. So for example, just keep watching that space. Just even last week, we were still getting examples of content that's sent in that people think are worth adding to the curated resources within that supported section. So the BBC have developed a new site called Sounds of Studying, which allows access to on-demand audio for young people to explore as part of qualifications in English, philosophy, history, RMPS, psychology, politics, media, geography. And that content's been drawn right across from the BBC and it's available through BBC Sounds. Either we look at the site earlier on, it's really mobile friendly, brings all the content into one place. I think it's dead easy to use. again, if not already, I'll put a link in the chat for people to have a look at that if you think that's of interest. It's particularly relevant for kind of hires, but again, quite a nice little site. So just to kind of slowly bring this introductory session to an end, I just wanted to include, well, I included this slide and graphic just to show you the kind of interplay between the elements of the National E-Learning Offer. So young people, could be encouraged to utilise any or all of the three elements to supplement the work that they're doing in schools or settings across Scotland. My own background's mathematics, incidentally, hence the reason of the use of the National 5 Maths slide. And I was also directly involved in the delivery of live webinars to learners, and the quality of feedback that we got from learners was that the opportunity to share with them not only the kind of teaching element, but also the links to the West OS, supported resources was really helpful to young people. So just to kind of round this off, it just remains for me to share with you my contact details. As I said earlier, if anyone wishes to get in touch, to offer any feedback, suggestions, ask any specific questions, then do feel free to do so through either of these channels. And that, of course, particularly applies to those watching on who might not be able to interact with the chat function live. So at this point, I'll hand over to Jackie. I'll stop presenting. Jackie, are you okay to take us through the live element of the National E-Learning Offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So that should be a swap over now of the screen. So you should be able to see my screen on there now. So
Yep,
it's great to see folk for this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jackie Yule. I'm a digital deputy head teacher seconded by the Northern Alliance, and I split my time between Eascol and Aberdeen City Council, which is where I'm based. Just to start off, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background into Eascol, because some of you may or may not be familiar with where Eascol came from. So it was established in August 2016 as a local solution to staffing issues in the Western Isles, with enhancing equity of provision for learners kind of at its core. And it grew from a Gaelic community and a Gaelic heartland, but while Gaelic is still very important to Eascol, the provision has expanded in such a way over the past few years, the majority of the business is conducted in English. Our staff are at different stages of their careers and are based all over Scotland, although there's still a central hub based in the Western Isles. Moving on to Eascol today, Eascol supports schools and learners, helping them with staffing shortages, enriching the curriculum and maximising opportunities for learners. Our core business supports schools who are unable to source a specialist teacher locally. Where possible, Eascol will deploy a member of staff from our staffing bank to deliver the subject remotely. This could be a short-term solution, or in some cases, it might even be for an entire school year. The digital deputy head teachers joined the management team of Eascol from across the Northern Alliance RIC in August 2020, alongside an ever-growing bank of teachers on our staff. Looking at why Eascol and the kind of the unique nature of our offer, Eascol's USP is very much a live, interactive teaching environment. All the other resources, including pre-recorded materials, flipped learning materials, they're all there to complement that live teaching input. We're able to offer niche subjects that may be difficult to staff in a smaller school, broadening the curriculum offer for learners. So just looking at some of the examples on the slide that you see there are opportunities to enhance curriculum opportunities for learners, access to subject specialists, working with partners, for example, via our DYW Live programme, and then looking at the benefits for teachers, the flexible working and removing barriers. Obviously, staff can work from home. It might be there are some staff who find it difficult to work in a bricks and mortar school, and we can make that work for them at Eascol. The staff also have the opportunity to enhance their digital skills as we go as well. This next slide is a roadmap of our journey in 2020-2021, supporting learners and their schools through the pandemic in an ever-changing landscape. I think we would all agree that last year continued to be one of these years like no other. So what the slide shows you there is that we began in May, in the beginning of that first lockdown, with sessions supported by partners, including Keep Scotland Beautiful and Scholar, to allow us to provide live materials and live interaction for learners who were out of school. Following the appointment of the team of digital deputy head teachers in August 2021, saw the team planning a wide range of programmes to support learners and their schools. Looking on the map there, that takes us through things like the introduction of the study support webinars that started off with 35 courses, and then getting our BGE primary and BGE secondary schools up and running online so that we were able to support learners who were shielding or self-isolating. Moving on into November, saw the introduction of Doug and his Discovery Den at early years, and he's become such a Twitter superstar that he now has his own account. The senior phase online school at that point was also ready for deployment, although at that point wasn't required. All the things that we'd done at that point, they were all coming from focus groups to find out what support was actually needed by schools. Ideas were tried and experimented, then road tested by colleagues in school, always open to feedback, but provision modified based on the feedback that we'd been given. These programmes were designed by practising educators, and some programmes were well received and some were not quite so well received. We were always, however, ready to flex and pivot to meet the needs of the ever-changing environment. For example, moving on to January on the roadmap, where Lockdown Live was created realistically in a matter of days as a result of the prolonged lockdown in January that we weren't really expecting. That meant we could have live provision for learners from early years through to senior phase on a daily basis to support schools and support learners during that next period of remote learning. During that time, the study support provision was expanded to include daytime study support sessions, again to supplement the work that was being done in the webinars to open that out to a wider audience. DYW Live's pilot began at that point, as did the Gaelic BIO programme for our Gaelic medium education learners. Moving into February and March, as we moved towards senior phase pupils completing courses, the senior phase help desk and learning spaces were created. These learning spaces became, if you like, a one-stop shop for learners to go to a specific subject and a specific level to find all the resources they might need to help them with their revision. And although these resources were primarily created for learners, it was that kind of the double-edged sword of that was that you could also be used for teachers as well. It was a handy resource for them to have. Moving into April and May, saw our very successful Easter Study Support webinars with 80 courses on offer at this point, building on the 35 we began with. The new primary input for Gaelic BIO, DYW Live, moved into its second phase. Scotland's assemblies were created at that point, with the first one starting in April, May, and we've got the next one coming up as part of our countdown to COP on Friday morning. Senior phase subject drop-ins were also created at this point for any learners who needed additional support in completing SQA courses. And that kind of gives a flavour of some of the things that eSchool were involved in last year. And you'll see there's a QR code in the top left-hand corner there, which links to our impact report from last session. So if you'd like to find out any more about the programmes that are there or anything else that eSchool were up to last year, please click on have a look at the QR code link there, and we'll pop a link in the chat as well in case anybody has an issue accessing those. All these programmes that we created, we very much wanted to make sure they were a resource that had a legacy. We didn't want it to be a programme that was spun up for a matter of weeks and then shelved and put on the back burner and never returned to. So what we wanted to make sure was that these resources had a legacy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Andy touched on this at the beginning, and I think what the three tiles on this slide here show are just examples of that interplay and that work between eSchool and WestOS. We don't work as two separate teams competing against each other. We're very much working together to support learners and their schools and providing opportunities. So what you see on the screen there, on the left-hand side, is a screenshot from the WestOS platform, looking at some of the resources for higher English. The resources that you see there, the two particular videos we've got there, are flipped learning materials and pre-records that were created initially for the study support webinars for eSchool. So they're available to the learners and the team who've taken part in the webinar. We then hand these on as a legacy to WestOS to share that along with their other resources on their platform, again to maximise opportunities to have learners access these resources. The tile in the centre shows you one of our senior phase learning spaces, which are available on the eSchool website. What you can see on the screen there in that tile is we've got lots of little icons. It's on a ThingLink platform, so that the links are there for learners to go and find these resources. And the ones that are the red icons with a little video are a kind of I feel like a clue to show us that they've come from the WestOS resources. Not necessarily important for learners to know that, but as practitioners are using the site, it's important for them to know exactly where they can get these resources, and it'll link them straight back to the WestOS platform where they can log in there. And the final tile there shows the Sustainable Scotland project, which was created in partnership between eSchool, Keep Scotland Beautiful and WestOS for second and third level learners. And that was released in March and again is still available on the website to use as a resource just now. Moving on to this session and some of our priorities for this year, looking at where we're going next, as well as being flexible to the needs of learners and schools as we continue through the end of the pandemic situation. Some of our priorities are iSchool, which is our Interrupted Learners programme, which is primarily a Northern Alliance pilot. We've got provision across BGE primary right through to senior phase, and we've already got that started, and we have staff teaching learners on a day-to-day basis already. The BGE primary focuses on literacy, numeracy and health and wellbeing. The BGE secondary is project-based IDL programmes with discrete English and maths, and the senior phase covering English and maths with personalisation and choice across a range of courses, including digital passport, enterprise and employability, and the mental health and wellbeing award. The study support webinars continue this session after a very successful year last year. We started with 44 courses, ranging from National 4 to higher. Sign-ups at the end of last week were sitting at just under 4,000 from just over 1,000 learners from almost 200 schools, and those numbers are going up on a day-by-day basis. Looking at the Gaelic medium education, we continue with a national offer for National 5 and higher Gaelic. There are curriculum enrichment programmes, for example, Gaelic Beo and Cothram. There's a partnership with Fashion and Gale, a Gaelic group promoting music, language and culture, and bespoke provision for schools, including supply cover. Moving on to supporting teachers and schools, which always is the heart of any business that we're doing. There are new resources for self-isolating learners, which I'll talk about again in just a minute. Supply cover for school, where the staff on the eSchool Bank are able to deliver online to classes in school. And CLPL opportunities continue for staff, upskilling them on digital pedagogy and using digital tools. What you see on the screen now is the recently released flyers that show the provision of resources for self-isolating learners that schools can use to share with their learners. And what you see on the screen there is the tile in the middle shows you the link straight onto the eSchool website, and you can then choose which of the 3 programmes you wish to look for resources. And then what you can see there, round about that kind of central tile, is the 3 interactive PDF flyers, which will allow you to click on the different programmes, and it will take you straight to the links that you require for these resources. So they can be used by staff, but they can also be shared with learners to use who are self-isolating. And what you'll see popping up on some of those flyers there are some of the things that I've already mentioned. Doug's Discovery Den's on there for early years. The big questions are there for BGE. DYW Live is there, link to the study support, links to the learning spaces. All these resources that were created as part of last year are there and sitting at the forefront for learners to still access at the moment. You can either access that, I will pop the link in the chat, but the QR code in the bottom left-hand corner takes you straight to that page on the eSchool website. Please, download these flyers, share them with your colleagues, share them with your networks. And something that is fairly new is we have now created an eSchool newsletter. The first edition of that will go out in just the next kind of couple of weeks. If you're interested in signing up, we just need your email address, and you can keep up to date with regular news and updates from what eSchool are up to and any opportunities that might be beneficial for your school, your setting and your learners. And that's the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner. And when I've finished, I'll pop these links in the chat so that you've got them there if your QR codes are not working. So just to kind of finish up, obviously I've kind of taken you very much on a whistle-stop tour round of what eSchool have not only done last year, but what we're doing at the moment and where we're hoping to head to for the rest of this session. My details are back on the screen again there. So if there's anything that anybody wants to get in touch for any more information, please feel free. And thank you for listening. And I'll hand you back over to Andy.
Thanks very much, Jackie. I think you did very well to get all that into such a short space of time. I know there's a huge amount for people to absorb and take in there. And actually, as you were speaking, we've worked together now for a good number of months, and it just made me really proud of all that work that's been going on over the last year or so. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We'll just hand straight over to Paul, if that's okay. Paul, you okay to lead the recorded section of this input?
Yeah, of course. Hopefully you can see my slides okay, Andy?
Yeah, all perfect. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, great. As Andy said, my name's Paul Downey. I'm currently on secondment with the West Partnership as Senior Phase Coordinator for West OS. And I am simply one of a number of colleagues working within our core team. If my computer allows me to change slide. There we go. And so I'm one of the West OS core team, alongside William Brown, our BGE coordinator, Louisa Gudgeon, our business manager, Cara McArdle, workstream lead officer, and we're very much led within the project by Jerry Lyons, who is strategic lead for the West OS project. As you've heard already, West OS is very much the recorded element of the national e-learning offer. And as Jackie said, the USP of eSchool is that live interactive element. The USP of West OS is very much that it's available whenever, wherever learners are, and those learning sessions can be accessed at a time that's appropriate to the young person and their family. West OS itself can be very much looked at as an online school that's been created by teachers in order to provide these recorded learning experiences for children and young people. We set it up with the belief that really all children and young people should be able to access high quality learning experiences regardless of circumstances. And that's not just during lockdown, but at all times. So we really need to consider the legacy benefits of West OS as a great study tool now that face-to-face teaching has resumed, as well as the support that it obviously offered during quite unique circumstances that we've been through recently. Each West OS video is approximately 10 minutes long. They are designed to provide input from an experienced teaching practitioner, and they're designed really to support learners to develop skills, knowledge and understanding relating to key learning. Now, they can be used as a standalone learning activity, or they can be prescribed as a teacher as part of a wider learning experiences. And by that, what we mean is they can be shared using a link, whether that's onto Teams or Showbie or Google Classroom, alongside other elements of work, whether that's to support homework, preparation for assessment, or any other suitable reason that the teacher believes will be useful. So we set up West OS obviously with quite a clear vision, are very much based around the vision of the West Partnership itself around equity, excellence and empowerment. And we really looked to provide support at a time when it was needed most, and looking at the different parts of the curriculum where that support could be made available. In terms of the communication, as Andy's said already, a lot of that's gone out through social media and through other platforms that have been used. There's been a significant amount of work done over the last year, not just in developing West OS, but in communicating with colleagues across the country how they can access it and how they might use it. And that work is very much ongoing. So if there is an occasion that you believe that it would be beneficial for us to provide that to your own school, your local authority or your RIC, then please do get in touch, as we're always more than happy to try and accommodate that. And we work with a range of partners who I'll come on to shortly in terms of developing it. So all of this has been based very much around the learner. They completely and utterly are at the heart of everything we've done with West OS. It was set up at a time or within unique circumstances in order to provide that support for learners when it was needed most. And now it continues to evolve and develop to continue to ensure that all learners have access to that support on an ongoing basis. And really, as we do that, it really does come down to three main things: the pedagogy, the communication, and the CLPL around it. It's not just the content and the technology that we use now. It's how we use that in our learning and teaching to make the biggest impacts for our young people. West OS is available to every young person and teacher in Scotland. It has been created by teachers from every region in Scotland, which is something that we're very proud about. And the resource itself is a far richer and better resource for having that breadth of input from colleagues. We have colleagues from every RIC in Scotland working together. The extended West OS core team is made up of representatives from each of those RICs who have all played significant roles in its development so far, and we look forward to that collaboration continuing. I can honestly say that WestOS has undoubtedly been the most powerful example of collaboration amongst teachers that I've certainly seen in my career. I'm sure many others would testify to the same. As Jackie said, we couldn't work any closer with eSchool, and it's very much a partnership that we cherish and look to develop further. We certainly don't look at it as a competition, as she said. We're very proud to host all of the legacy material that's produced from eSchool colleagues, and all of that can be found on WestOS, and that continues to grow as well. And we work with a range of partners who are all contributing and creating content for the platform as we continue to develop it, whether it's universities, Young Scot, World Wildlife Federation looking to develop material in the run-up to COP. We've had Keep Scotland Beautiful with Sustainable Scotland and eSchool, Search and Think4 and other partners. And that list of partners continues to grow. And again, the platform evolves and is stronger because of those relationships. WestOS itself, as I said, is available to everyone in Scotland. All young people, all teachers can access it. The vast majority of them access it via Glow currently, although and all those videos can also be found directly through the National E-Learning Offer search site on the Education Scotland website, and you can do that directly through the main search engine, or specifically through the WestOS lesson search within that if you're looking to do it a little bit quicker. But equally, you can access the tile itself via Glow, and that can be added to your own Launchpad. You can encourage young people to add it to their Launchpad to ensure easy access for them when they look to use the platform itself. Once they go into the platform, they can then choose senior phase or BGE before selecting the curricular area or subject and a level, and looking to find those individual video lessons. If we were to take a video as an example, as the platform continues to develop, we're starting to look at building additional resources alongside those video lessons. So if we take the higher biology, animal welfare video, all of our videos are branded in a way that you can quickly see where they've originated from. So for this animal welfare video, it originated in the Tayside Regional Improvement Collaborative by colleagues in the East Coast. And alongside that video, we've now populated it with a summary note, a set of past paper questions and answers, a link to the Higher Biology podcast, and the BBC bite-sized link for animal welfare. That means that young people, when they access that specific video lesson, have a more rounded learning experience available all in the one place. The supported element and the Nilo search engine allows that access for colleagues to access a really wide range of resources that we didn't necessarily have access to in such a way before. With adding quality assured resources alongside some of our video lessons, we look to make those easily accessible for young people, all in one place, to ensure that rounded learning experience in a simplified and accessible way for them. And that's very much been based on feedback from young people and colleagues themselves. Each lesson, all of our videos, as well as the resources that sit alongside them, are quality assured and have been based on and continue to evolve as we move forward. Each video lesson generally will look to start with the same key elements. So we would expect to have the learning intention and success criteria, and there are consistent symbols used throughout the lessons so that learners can be aware of what they're expected to do, particularly within the BGE part of the curriculum. Different tasks can be found within the video lessons, and often again starting to link those to additional resources alongside them. And currently we have over 2,500 video lessons on the platform, and that continues to grow and develop as we look to evolve the platform itself. Now that we're thankfully we have young people back in the school building, it really can't be emphasised enough that WestOS is not a COVID artefact. It's being used in a growing number of ways by practitioners across Scotland, whether that's to support homework tasks, prepare for assessments, or enhancing cover work. There are lots of ways in which these lessons can be used both inside and outside of the classroom setting. WestOS isn't just being used by young people in their schools, but we're starting to see an increasing range of uses, such as the Glasgow University tutoring programme this year, where their tutors are linking their sessions with young people to material on WestOS. So if, again, you think that WestOS could support your own projects, then please get in touch if we might be able to help, or simply to let us know how you're planning to use it or how you're already using it. We've developed a range of interactive and hyperlinked overview documents for specific subjects, but also across the curriculum to be used by young people. And again, should you wish your own specific overview for your own school, local authority, again, please get in touch, as we're always happy to look to provide this. And the example on the right-hand side was created for Bellahouston Academy, at a specific point in time that they required some support. And as you can see, they had a senior phase support overview made up for young people towards the end of last session. And that document allowed young people to click on each of those subject areas and go directly to the resources that were available for them. It also came with a simplified set of instructions on how to log into the platform via Glow to ensure that there were limited barriers. The example on the left-hand side there was an overview that was done ahead of the higher biology exam last year, and it also, not only did it link directly to the specific key areas of the higher biology course for young people to give them an overview of the course on one page, but it also linked to the eSchool live support session sign up for the key areas where they were available, and included the dates on which those key areas were being covered in the live support offered by eSchool, and again was about reducing the barriers to young people accessing the material and looking to provide that access in different ways to suit different needs. As we continue to develop the support that's available at the moment, we know that we have young people still isolating at home, and again looking to develop more and more overview documents that again can be used in different circumstances by colleagues, by young people themselves, and other stakeholders. Those resources will shortly be available together via the updated West Partnership website, as well as being made available through the Nilo search engine itself. And again, please get in touch if you have specific needs that you think we could provide something for you. I really want to finish up with something to take away. We know that some of the feedback from colleagues across the country to this point has included asking us to provide as much support in how to access these materials as possible, and because of that, really ourselves, eSchool and Education Scotland are coming together again to really explore the opportunities that are available through the National E-Learning offers live, recorded and supported elements. So we have a number of CLPL sessions being offered over the course of November next month, which colleagues across Scotland will be able to access. Now, there'll be space within these sessions for conversation, sharing stories and worked examples, as well as trying to take a deep dive into some of the resources that are available within them, and really trying to discover how you might be able to embed some of these digital resources into your own pedagogy and curriculum design. So we'll be looking at senior phase on the 2nd and 17th of November between 4 and 4:30, and the BGE on Wednesday the 10th and Thursday the 25th of November. And we very much hope that we'll be able to see as many people as possible. And I believe Andy will be able to drop some links hopefully into the chat for those as well.
Thanks, Paul. That was astounding, all that information in that short period of time again. And I'm still in awe as to just how much this has all grown in the space of time that it has. A lot to do with all the partnerships and the people that you've had on board, and also a lot to do with the way that you've managed the whole thing as well. So thank you so much for sharing all that. There's Stephen just placed into the chat there just now the links that we will set up for those sessions in November. So please do share those as opportunities for colleagues to join. We've tried to answer some questions that are floating around in the chat. Apologies if we haven't answered everybody's questions, but we've certainly tried to answer as many as we can. Jackie, do you want to maybe share the Menti slide just from the start, see if there's anything in there worth highlighting or mentioning or coming back to?
Yeah, I can do. We've only actually got a couple of comments on it, so I'll maybe just read them out. Somebody's asked about making videos of practical activities. That would be really helpful. And they said, for example, science experiments. Now, you talked about the science experiments at the beginning with the 200 practical science examples that are there and the secondary science. But they've also talked about music performance and PE demonstrations, for example, for those who are isolating and absent. So that's certainly something we can take back. And the only other thing on the Menti is talking about more easy to use software and apps to accelerate children and young people's learning. And that's the only two we've got on there. So there's still plenty of time, folks. If you want to add on to that just now, even if it's just after the session's finished, please feel free to pop your thoughts on there and we can pick them up later.
The Menti link is right at the top of the chat. You might need to scroll up.
I'll just pop it back in again, Andy.
Oh, that's great, Jackie. Thanks. Paul, I know you're just literally off stage, I suppose, but is there anything in the chat that you want or need to or would like to pick up on?
Not that I've seen so far. I think Mr. Garioch works in an independent school in Scotland and don't seem to be able to access West to West and Glow as there is a resource only for local authority schools. So West to West is currently accessible by all 32 local authorities and all schools and early learning centres within those. There had been conversations, I believe, with independent schools and getting access, but we can maybe come back to Mr. Gale once we check where that got to in terms of progress. But I do know that was a conversation that happened at one time.
Mr. Garrick, if my email address is within the chat function somewhere, so do feel free to send me an email or contact Paul and we can get an answer to your question as soon as possible. I see there's just one there from Dorothy. Paul, I think it's probably aimed at yourself. Are you still looking for people to create new content?
Absolutely, Dorothy. And again, please drop us a message and get in touch if that's something you're willing to do. We would hope that in the coming weeks that there will be opportunities being shared via representatives within each RIC to try and capture as many people as possible who would be interested. We've been one of the most positive things that we've seen over the last couple of weeks when we've been reviewing the progress and planning for next steps, certainly at our end, is the number of colleagues that continue to want to be involved, whether that's as our subject coordinators or whether it's simply as contributors making content. And I think that says a lot about not just the colleagues that have been involved, but in the collaborative, supportive environment that's kind of been created through that process. So yes, absolutely. Lots of opportunities to get involved.
Great. Colleagues, I'm not seeing any other question. I think we've tackled every question in the chat. Hopefully we've shared with you a bit of a whistle-stop tour to the supported, the live and the recorded resources. And hopefully that's been helpful and allow you to go away, explore some of that, and hopefully share it with your learners and your and other colleagues, as I said at the beginning, with different schools or within the same school or setting. I suppose it's really just for me, just to finally close off this session. Thank you so much for being part of it. Thanks to Jackie and Paul in particular, and all of those others behind the scenes who have worked incredibly hard to put all of this stuff together. So I wish you all the best. do feel free to make contact if you've got any further points or questions. We'll do our very best to respond to those as quickly as we can, and enjoy the rest of the Scottish Learning Festival sessions. Thank you.